Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News Marathon Night, where we take a series from the 90s or even earlier that has a butt ton of episodes, and we do them we analyze episode by episode, but we do it in chunks. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this. And joining me, obviously, is my lovely wife, Andrea. Andrea, have you let it rip within the last week or so since we actually were able to do a podcast? I don't mean tops. I actually just mean farting.
No.
Are you following the theory of my sister-in-law, which is the girls don't fart, they poot?
No.
Somebody actually did mention this to us, is that the whole concept of Beyblade is let it rip, and we've never made a fart joke in the middle of any of that. I almost feel like I've let you down, Andrea. I really actually do. But here we are again. We have this episode and one more left before we're done. And today we're going to be covering episodes 45 through 48 of Beyblade. We had some big reveals in the previous week, Andrea. I mean, Kai betrayed the Bladebreakers, and then he got a god-tier Beyblade, for lack of a better term, because it was nigh unstoppable, and it could absorb your Bit Beast. So, obviously, I think god-tier is appropriate.
Yeah.
No possible way to destroy it, ever. But we had to continue on, and so we're now here to episode 45, Breaking the Ice. And now that I look at that episode title, it was quite literal. It actually was. So obviously the Bladebreakers are very upset about this revelation about Kai. And who could blame them? Especially in the concept that Tyson, even though he makes it sound like he's not that broken up, we're talking about 10 to 12-year-old boys, he's been holding on to Kai's Dranzer pretty hard after this. And so they're trying to figure out, okay, what do we do now? Because we obviously have to face the Demolition Boys, and we've seen what Kai can do with his Beyblade, and can we even do it? Are we capable of doing it? And I should point out that it is right now it's just Tyson, Ray, and Kenny. Max is actually at the airport right now, because his mom and the All-Stars are getting ready to leave. Because, they've already had enough humiliation for one lifetime, and so they're going to head home now that they've been eliminated from the tournament. And Max's mom, even though she still hasn't earned Mom of the Year award, she still tries to make Max feel a little bit better because, his friend betrayed them, and on top of that, she even says that when she gets home, they're going to analyze the data that they have from Black Dranzer from their encounter with it, as well as, analyze whatever other encounters are out there, and they're going to find a way to beat Black Dranzer, trying to make Max feel better about what he has to go and do. Still, not earning Mom of the Year award, but we're making progress. Let's put it that way. Don't giggle at me like that. She hasn't earned Mom of the Year yet. So, at that point, we then find out through a messenger that Kai basically sent somebody to go grab Ray, Tyson, and Kenny, and Max, but Max wasn't there, to meet him, and they can go and challenge, and basically they can resolve this right here and now. And so this messenger actually takes them via helicopter to Lake Baikal, an actual lake in Russia, believe it or not, where Kai is waiting. And the whole premise of this is that Kai is demanding to challenge the Bladebreakers now to prove he never needed them. He was always the better Beyblader, and also to claim their Bit Beasts because they don't deserve them, kind of thing. So obviously a very big kind of challenge to put down, right?
Yeah.
And obviously Tyson and Ray take him up on that offer. Even Kenny does. Kenny digs out his Beyblade and actually joins in the fight and is very quickly eliminated. Thankfully, Dizzy wasn't in there. Otherwise, Dizzy would be claimed by Black Dranzer. While they're fighting, we cut back to Max. And Max and his mom are basically saying goodbye to each other, but then Emily comes up and shows a picture that they just barely got. Not sure how they got it, but it's basically satellite footage of Lake Baikal where Tyson, Ray, and Kai are battling. And Max is immediately distraught by this, but Max's mom basically says, okay, we'll take our plane with you and we'll get you there so you can help out. And I don't know how they're going to pull that off, but they do it. So they actually head out, and then we come back to the battle. It's not going well in the slightest for Tyson or for Ray. I think Ray gets eliminated first, and Tyson is basically going down swinging and having the worst time ever, and Kai is monologuing because, remember, now he's a villain. So he's got a monologue about how much time they wasted and how they just aren't as perfect as him. And it is going to be so great to be able to claim their bit beasts and forever claim that he never needed the Bladebreakers and he is forever on his own. This is apparently enough time for Max to make his way there and do a skydive, launch his Beyblade, and then open the chute. It actually was kind of a cool moment. I'll give it that. I should also point out that while on the plane, Max's mom also does another solid for Max. She took his Drasil and made it into a super Beyblade. Basically, she took the data that they had and she tweaked Drasil to the point where it's maxed out as far as she is concerned. So now it's super Drasil. And this is the Beyblade that he actually launches out against Kai. And remember, Kai was on a bit of a power trip at this point. That is not the case when Drasil enters the fray. Drasil actually is giving Black Dranzer a run for its money. It's actually holding up defense-wise against Black Dranzer. And this is the point where Kenny points out to Tyson that they're not done. You still have another Beyblade.
I thought that was Max that said that.
Or maybe it was Max that said it. But somebody basically points out, yeah, you have another Beyblade, Tyson. Why don't you go ahead and dig that out? And he does. He launches Dranzer, and while Drasil tanks Black Dranzer, Dranzer comes in and just starts thrashing Black Dranzer. And Kai is perplexed by all of this happening in front of him. He doesn't understand how either Drasil or Dranzer stand a chance against him. He has Black Dranzer. He has the greatest Beyblade ever, right? The God tier. And he loses. Believe it or not, he loses. Black Dranzer lost to Dranzer. Dranzer launched by Tyson, might I add. That seems like the ultimate cardinal sin for Kai, doesn't it? He got beat by his former Beyblade, launched by the person who technically beat him at the tournament that made them the Bladebreakers in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but I'm speaking English because we're talking about Japanese anime. So this happens. This breaks Kai. Like, he does not understand what's happening. He doesn't understand how they won. And, oh, by the way, while they've been having this epic Beyblade battle, they've been having it on a riverbed, a frozen riverbed. And guess what? Because of the heat and because of the strikes, it's cracking throughout most of this Beyblade battle. Now that Kai is a shell of his former self, it breaks completely. And he starts sinking into the water. I should point out, I believe, unless you saw differently, Black Dranzer sinks just right away.
No.
Oh, it didn't? I thought I saw it go into the water.
Not that I'm aware of.
Because that's what I thought happened, is that it went into the water and then we see it in the next episode. But
well, then he would have seen him pull it out.
And we should point out, this is freezing water. And Kai is basically like, I have embraced death. I lost. I don't deserve to live. You know, now that I think about it, he's kind of acting like Rain from G Gundam. I have to acknowledge my father's sins. We can no longer date. This happens a lot in anime. I'm just saying. But the Bladebreakers do not agree with him and actually reach their hand out to get him out of the cold water. And he does not understand why they do this. He is dejected. Right now he's feeling like, I lost. I don't deserve to live, kind of thing. And instead they're saying, like, give us your hand. It's okay. We can still be the Bladebreakers, buddy. And eventually Kai takes their hand and is pulled out of the water and reclaims Dranzer and is now part of the Bladebreakers again. Wow, this didn't last long, if you think about it. How many episodes was this? 4? 1 where he made the decision, 2 with the reveal, the second, and also he trounced the All-Stars, 3rd where he trounced the White Tigers, and then this. Yeah, 4 episodes. That didn't last long, in the slightest. I guess his turn to the dark side wasn't 100%. Well, maybe if instead of having Boris, he had Palpatine, he would have stayed more on the dark side. I don't know. But ultimately, he rejoins the Bladebreakers, and this is where he basically teases at the end of the episode, I will tell you everything, and I am going to also make things right. Because he doesn't join them in the private plane going back, he instead is going back to the Abbey. So that's where the episode ends. What did breaking the ice do right, Andrea?
It was just fun.
Do you feel it was a proper climactic arc to the Kai going rogue mini arc that they have done?
I don't think so.
Okay, and why is that?
I guess it probably would have made it even more if he ended up taking another one of their bit beasts.
Yeah, probably.
But then ends up losing after that, you know?
I still... Here's the thing. I see your point, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I think that you'd be right. It would be another villainous act that we would want to see him taken down, right? I think I'm disappointed by this because ultimately what I was getting ready for is that the finals was going to be the Demolition Boys versus the Bladebreakers, and it was going to come down to Tyson versus Kai again, and we were going to have the same match that we did at the beginning of the series, and Tyson was still going to win, except this time he was going to win against overwhelming odds. Because at that point, I'm assuming that everybody else would have lost to Black Dranzer, and so he'd have to fight his own teammates, kind of thing. Dragoon would have had to fight Drasil, and would have had to fight Drigger. This is the problem. All of them start with D's. And maybe he would have even had to fight the original Dranzer, because that would have been absorbed too. Or maybe, even better, he would have brought the original Dranzer in, and Kai would have had to face his past or something like that. And so, yeah, I'm disappointed by this. I think it should have gone a little longer. I think that it was overall a bad idea for Kai. I'm kind of surprised that Boris didn't try to stop him. I mean, granted, we find out in the next episode he did it behind everybody's back, but you would have thought that somebody like Boris would have said, no, don't touch the Bladebreakers because we want to have that moment on camera, right?
No, but he probably just would rather see him try and get their bit beasts too. So.
Right, because, we'd find out later that that's kind of part of the plan for him. So, positives out of this. For me, the battle between them was actually really cool. So I'll give it that. I thought that the battle was really cool. I thought that it was really cool that Max, with his souped-up Drasil, was the guy who ultimately stopped Kai and was able to kind of put things at a standstill, and then Tyson was able to bring out Dranzer. Because I really did think that Dranzer needed to be part of this. It was Kai's original Beyblade, and considering how much time they had spent together, if we're saying that these sacred beasts are just as much part of the team as anything, right? Then Dranzer would want to prove to himself that he is better than Black Dranzer. So I'm disappointed, but I do think that the overall Beyblade battle was pretty good. I will also give positives over to Max's mom, and now she gets a participation trophy but not Mom of the Year. So there you go. That's my consolation for you, everybody. Nope, she's still not Mom of the Year. I still cannot get over her introduction. What did Breaking the Ice do wrong? I mean, aside from the fact that we're a little disappointed that the Kai arc didn't last that long, what else did it do wrong?
I think
Kai should be dead.
I think it was
literally the second his foot or his leg should have hit the ice, that goes up your body and that freezes you up. He should be dead right now. I don't know why they were screaming like, take my hand. He would have been frozen stiff. So at that point, you might as well just grab him at that point. So I'm just saying Kai should have been dead.
I just think it was like, wow, they're way too forgiving for all of a sudden.
Yeah, that too. I mean, Tyson's the shonen protagonist, so he has to be. Like, because that's how that works. But Max and Ray and Kenny all are willing to bring him back in. Nobody disagrees with it.
Oh, yeah.
Why? I'm just saying, there should be some hurt feelings here, you know?
Oh, yeah, I mean, compared to, like, say, Digimon, for example.
Right.
Nobody trusted Ken.
How many you remember that moment? No, Ty, I won't. Where Matt turns on Ty. That was a cool moment.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think ever apologies are exchanged or anything like that, but they come together because we all knew that they would, but it made sense when they came back together. A lot of this doesn't. Because it's not just that Kai betrayed them, he also took the bit beasts of all of their new friends. I'm just saying, there should be a problem here. Like, Max is friends with the All-Stars, right?
Mm-hmm.
We saw how hurt Emily was that she doesn't have Trigator anymore. Max is just openly forgiving him? Ray saw Mariah crushed when she lost Galax. Nope, just forgiven. Water under the bridge, apparently. Just saying. There are some issues here.
Yeah, it's just funny.
So, out of 5, what would we give Breaking the Ice?
3.
2. Just because the Kai arc should have been longer, and I hate to say it again, but this is basically Tyson versus Robert all over again. It's kind of a non-ending to me. And so at that point, 2. 2 out of 5. This was a bad decision. So there you go. That's episode 45. Let's get into episode 46, Breaking the Ice. And we immediately cut back to the Abbey, where Boris is frantically looking for Kai, because apparently nobody pays attention to him whatsoever, and he is just free to roam the complex. Kai then appears out of nowhere, kind of like a ninja or something like that in an anime, and immediately says, here's your Black Dranzer back, and launches it into the all the tech that they have in that room. And says, yep, we're done, and I'm not working for you anymore, and sucks to be you, and basically walks off. And Boris is obviously not happy about this, and eventually Voltaire, who is Kai's grandpa, he finds out he's not happy with Boris, and so Boris is in a rough spot right now. So much so that basically what he does is we get to see the 4 members of the Demolition Boys, because there was a 4th member that we hadn't seen yet. He brings them all into the area where Kai was training and brings Black Dranzer and tells them to launch their Beyblades. To which all 4, again, this is the god tier Beyblade. He orders them to destroy Black Dranzer. To which they do. 4-on-1. And after they destroy Black Dranzer, they in turn absorb all of the bit beasts that were absorbed by Black Dranzer. So it's like it's divided amongst them. So that way the Demolition Boys are even more powerful and are guaranteed to defeat the Bladebreakers. With me so far, everybody? Because that's a lot of exposition right there. And it's gonna get worse. So, When the Bladebreakers get back to their hotel room, they are met by Mr. Dickinson and Tyson's grandpa, which I find funny because this is the first time in we use Wikipedia to be able to help out with the summaries. I didn't know this, but Tyson's grandfather's name is Ryu, the Japanese word for dragon. That's great. So Mr. Dickinson and Tyson's grandpa are there and are immediately kind of wanting to also be brought up to speed, or at least they've been waiting for the Bladebreakers to make sure they're okay. To which this is the point where they ask Kai to explain the situation. And Kai immediately tells them about his past with the Abbey, the fact that he grew up there and that his grandfather is the owner of the Biovolt Corporation and that they're all knucking futs and they want to take over the world. And the way that they want to do it is that they want to artificially create bit beasts, much like how we were being told the BBA was doing that. And that also kind of coincides with a lot of the science that we were seeing down in the Abbey, where they are basically trying to artificially create fearsome, dark bit beasts. And so that's how we, I guess, end up with Black Dranzer. And that's ultimately their goal, is that they want to take over the world and they want to use these dark bit beasts in order to do it. During this conversation, we are immediately joined by Tyson's father. Because here's the thing, apparently, Mr. Dickinson has already known about the plan from the Biovolt Corporation. Why does he know that? Well, because of Tyson's dad. Tyson's dad was tasked with learning about the ancient beasts that the bit beasts are supposed to be. And he actually met Boris in a library. And Boris basically told him the plan. That was really smart of you, by the way, Boris. Because he wanted to bring Tyson's dad into the fold. And Tyson's dad refused. To which Tyson's dad immediately contacts Mr. Dickinson. And now they've decided, okay, we have to stop the Biovolt Corporation from doing this. And it turns out that the reason that Mr. Dickinson not only created the Bladebreakers, but also tested them as much as he did, especially in Europe, is for this ultimate goal. Wow, that was really convoluted for an old man. I'm just saying. And at any point, there were about 20 different steps in this process where this plan could have gone off the rails, including the fact that Kai betrayed you. But apparently, Mr. Dickinson knew that Kai would not betray them. So, good for you. What if he proved you wrong? What if he ultimately proved... right, Andrew? What if he ultimately proved you wrong and still was on their side? You would have been screwed because the God tier Beyblade would have destroyed your entire team. And then how do you go after Biovolt after that?
That's true.
I'm sorry, but there are a lot of minor things here that could have gone horribly wrong and their plan is horribly flawed. But that was ultimately the goal, is that the BBA was going to, while they were setting up the Bladebreakers, the BBA was going to investigate Voltaire and the Biovolt Corporation in the background to make sure that they had all the evidence that they needed. And so then they decide, okay, well, we're gonna end this at the finals, which is official. I don't know if you guys knew this, but the tournament was not very long, and both of the tournament brackets for the Demolition Boys are basically what you saw. So at that point, we are to the finals because we can't show the Bladebreakers actually earning their way into the finals, apparently. And while they are driving to the arena in their bus, by the way, being driven by Tyson's grandpa, who openly admits he doesn't have a license. Well, he has a license, but it's a fishing license.
Oh, yeah.
I expect nothing less from anime people. I really don't. They are then ambushed, let's put it that way, by the Demolition Boys. They basically come in their helicopter and wreck the bus, or at least get the bus off the road. And then Ian is brought down to take down the Bladebreakers. Now, one thing we learn here is that because of the battle with Kai, Drigger and Dragoon are not in good shape. They've been pretty heavily damaged. So it's up to Drasil. I don't know why Kai isn't willing to use Dranzer, but Drasil is ready to go. And so Drasil takes on what was it? Something Borg. That's the theme of this one, but it was Ian's Snake Beyblade. Sorry. What was it called? Anyway, the Snake Beyblade goes up against Drasil. It's a pretty hard-fought battle, but unfortunately, Max loses and has his Drasil Bit Beast taken from him. But not by Ian, by the other kid. I think his original dub name is Sergey. Spencer. Spencer in the English dub. He's the one that looks like he has an assault rifle launcher, where Ian has a sniper rifle. So at that point, actually, didn't Kai get involved in the battle too? Because we also got to see Spencer's Bit Beast out of this. Because this is when we saw his Bit Beast, Seaborg, which is a big whale.
Yeah, but I thought that took out Max's Drasil.
Is it? Then who took out Ian?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but because
maybe Max took on Ian and won, and then Spencer came in,
possibly
with Seaborg,
and it took both him and knocked Max down. With.
Yep. And that's when Drasil is stolen, so obviously Max is disheartened by this, obviously. And that ends their encounter. They decide to leave to the finals because they think that they basically made it so the Bladebreakers cannot make it to the finals. And that's how the episode ends, is with Max's Drasil being stolen. So what did First Strike do right? Don't look at me. I've been talking this whole time. Go ahead.
I don't have anything to say on that one.
Okay, so it didn't do anything right. 0 out of 5 from Andrea.
It was an okay episode. That's
what did you think of the battle itself?
I mean, it was okay. I mean, there wasn't anything spectacular about it.
Okay. To me, the battle was good because of the fact that we got to see Spencer's Seaborg. But that was about it. I actually wasn't happy about Max's Drasil getting taken, because that pretty much just guarantees he can't be in the finals. And didn't we just get a souped up Beyblade for him? That seems kind of anticlimactic in a way.
Well, yeah, especially if it was supposed to be powered up. I'm surprised it got
right. That
if it can
that makes no sense to me.
Well, if it can withstand Dranzer and Dranzer,
right, or Black Dranzer rather.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's gone. So it basically makes it look like they have no hope. What did this episode do wrong?
Yeah, but if they didn't take at least one of their Bit Beasts, then Kai wouldn't be able to challenge. Whether Kai would have chosen not to.
Okay, run that by me again.
I'm just saying, if one of the other Bit Beasts didn't get taken, then who knows if Kai would have faced them in the finals or not.
I think he would have. I think he's pretty much guaranteed to that. He wants to face off against Boris and win. And prove that he doesn't need Black Dranzer.
Yeah, well, that's true. But then who would be willing to sit that one out?
Okay, good point. Like, who would be? I don't know. But I actually would say as a counter argument, this ought to be one where it is a best of 3, that all 4 of them have to compete. And so then at that point, that solves your problem, is that I wouldn't want anybody out. I think, honestly, they would have to have all of them. What did this episode do wrong for you? I'll start with this. I hate it when exposition dumps are done this way, because you could have easily had more time in that fight if you didn't have to spend the first 15 minutes explaining a plot line that would have been better to have seen Or it would have been better if we'd seen it as opposed to showing us it. And the example that I will give you on this is, we had that clip show a while back, right?
Oh, yeah.
With Kenny going into a bar.
Yeah.
Some clip shows actually have dual stories going on at the same time while they're doing the clips.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it have been better to not only have Kenny in the milk bar, but then also have Mr. Dickinson explaining things from his point of view, and he's speaking to somebody else on the other line, and that could have been Tyson's dad?
I mean, that's true.
That would have been a cool way also to introduce Tyson's dad, because we also find out in this exposition dump, Mr. Dickinson, although we expected this, Mr. Dickinson is the one that sent them the videotape that had Tyson's dad on it. So I'm just saying it would have made more cohesion in the story. Right? So at that point, we could have easily, and we could have been building in smaller moments as it went along, basically kind of showing Mr. Dickinson doing this investigation and showing that he has allies in the process. One of them obviously was Ray, and we find out that that's exactly what happened. Mr. Dickinson informed Ray that he was doing this and that he was putting a team together, and he wanted Ray to be part of that team.
Mm.
You could have explained all. That's what I'm saying. I don't like exposition dumps like this, especially in kids shows, because in kids shows, you have half the amount of time to be able to do it as opposed to adult TV, which is roughly an hour in the US. I get it with European, it can be 90 minutes or whatever. I'm not counting that. But you have roughly half the amount of time to do an exposition dump like that. And so it makes it very difficult to be able to pull it off, and it looks lazy, unfortunately. But that's my first one. Any dislikes on this?
Probably just, I just find it funny that Kai's he was the victim in this whole entire thing of getting pulled into doing all those bad things, and it's oh, well, that wasn't my fault.
Where was he pulled into being the victim?
Well, that's what he was acting like, oh, well.
Where was he acting like that?
Wasn't it during the exposition dump when he
No, he was just explaining it.
Well, yeah, but they were like, then how come you joined up with the Demolition Boys?
I thought he said why. Because of power.
Yeah,
because they offered him Black Dranzer.
Yeah, but then he's like, well, they made me go and steal bit beasts and stuff like that.
But he would have done it anyway.
I know.
Out of pursuit of power.
Yeah.
I don't remember it that way, but if they did do that, then yeah, that's bad character development for Kai. I would agree with you on that. I don't think that's what they did. I think he ultimately just kind of came to the conclusion of their goals were my goals kind of thing, because that's Kai's character.
It just made it build up his grandfather manipulated him into doing it.
Okay, I remember the grandfather stuff, but
yeah.
I remember the grandfather stuff, but not that he felt like a victim out of it, because
I don't say he was a victim, but it kind of played like
I mean, he does make the claim that Voltaire trained him to do this. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. I can see your point if that's the case. Yeah, that would be one. I think another one that you and I would agree on is Stracile getting stolen. That was not a good idea in the slightest.
Well, eventually.
Especially since Stracile just got upgraded again. Why not just let him have a moment? I mean, he had his moment against Michael. I'll give him that. But why not let him have another moment? I don't see the problem.
Well, it's better than seeing Drigger gets taken away again. I mean, Drigger left the first time. No sense of wanting him.
I don't think any of them should have. I think ultimately what could have happened is, right in the middle of the process, Kai launches Dranzer and doesn't let them do it. But I don't think he did. So, yeah, I don't like it. I think it would have been a cool thing to have all four of them face off against each other, but that's the way it went.
Yeah, but if they ended up tied, then how would they break it?
It wouldn't be tied because I'm not thinking about it in forms of a competition. I'm thinking of it in terms of writing a story. It wouldn't be a tie.
Yeah, 4 against 4.
Well, yes, and each one earns points. So at that point, then as soon as it looks like me, because the way I would do it, Andrea, is I would have the Demolition Boys win. And then Tyson basically says, you get the whole kit and caboodle, you get all of our bit beasts. You know, like he puts the overwhelming odds on himself and he wins. Because that's usually how these things go.
Yeah, but if it's 4 against 4, and let's just say each side wins 2, then who?
But they wouldn't, because I would make the Demolition Boys win.
No, because it would be a tie.
Nope.
How could it be a...
Because 3 of them would win.
3 of them win.
I would make the Demolition Boys sweep the Bladebreakers.
Okay.
Because then Tyson gets to come out and save the day. You basically make the 4th match all or nothing.
Okay. I guess.
I've seen it numerous times in other anime.
Then I guess I don't know.
Yeah, so like all 3 of them lose. It looks like the Bladebreakers are just done. But then Tyson basically comes out and says, "No, I want to challenge this guy. He thinks he's all that in a bag of chips. I will put my bit beasts and my Beyblading career and that of my teammates and all of my friends on the line," and he wins.
Yeah, but that wouldn't work in a competition, though.
Yeah, it would.
Because wouldn't the Demolition Boys be in the lead regardless, even if Tyson won?
And that is the point. Because they would be so prideful and stuck in their own hubris, they'd accept. And it would be their hubris that is ultimately their downfall.
Yeah, but I don't think...
I like this storytelling.
Yeah, but I don't think they would change the rules like that.
Yeah, they would, if they ultimately won. Oh, and the other thing I'd also throw in is that Tyson immediately says, "Oh, by the way, I'm putting all of my faith and you get to own the Beyblade Association if I lose. Mr. Dickinson is kicked out and now you own them and you get your world domination." There you go. I just saw Beyblade. That's how it goes. And it would have been great. But out of 5, what would we give First Strike?
Yeah, I'll just give it a 3.
2. Again, don't do exposition dumps like this, where it takes up 3/4 of the episode. It doesn't work for a kid's show. It really doesn't. And you already had a clip show. Have that clip show have meaning, not just with the comedic value of what Kenny was doing, but you could have shown that there was something else in the works in the background that we didn't know about in that. So then we move to episode 47, A Lesson for Tyson. So after having their ass handed to them, they decide to still make their way to the finals in the bus, except, or actually no, they wrecked the bus enough to a point where they couldn't drive it anymore. So then they start walking, and another bus comes and picks them up, which just so happens to belong to Oliver and Enrique. Wow, these guys get around, don't they? They're way more active than a French and Italian man should be. Just saying, according to stereotypes. To which the Bladebreakers bring them up to speed on what has happened, and Oliver and Enrique are not surprised by any of this because this sounds to them like the Demolition Boys. Because remember, these guys are also, according to what we know, former world champions, even though they weren't part of a team. And so they would know about the Demolition Boys. And so they just kind of explain this, including all of the stuff about Biovolt to Oliver and Enrique, and are like, okay. And it turns out also that Mr. Dickinson arranged for Oliver and Enrique to be in Russia. Not just them. We'll find that out in a minute. But Mr. Dickinson, wow, he's thought things out 25 steps ahead, hasn't he? He's just playing that 5D chess. Would have been great if we'd actually seen him do this. But unfortunately, it looks like they have car trouble, Andrea. Oh no. Oh no. And Robert's butler says that they have to stop at these remote ruins in the middle of nowhere. Because of course they do. And when they do, and they go to check out the area while Robert's butler is working on the car. Out comes Robert, and we actually had to take 10 minutes to figure out who the guy was again. Johnny. Johnny didn't get much of an introduction, did he? So, Robert apparently arranged all of this because he wants to train Tyson to go up against the he wants Tyson to go up against the Bladebreakers. He wants to train Tyson to go up against the Demolition Boys. And so Robert immediately challenges Dragoon to a match. But wait, I hear you ask. I thought Dragoon was way too damaged. So did I, but apparently it isn't. I don't know. Plot. Moving on. They have a couple of matches, and because Tyson is so angry about Max losing Dracil, he is very unfocused. And you could obviously see it in Dragoon's performance, because Dragoon is very weak right now, because basically all that Tyson is doing is not throwing his head against a wall, he's throwing Dragoon's head against a wall. And so Grifolian continues to beat the crap out of him. And Robert is consistently saying, okay, launch it out again. Let's go again. And all of this is with a purpose. Believe it or not, Robert wants to train Tyson to actually win. And this is where he starts to point out that I get that you're angry, but if you channel that anger into Dragoon, you will have the power you need to beat the Demolition Boys. And unfortunately, Tyson, like most shonen protagonists, is very hard-headed. It takes a little bit for him to learn this. But eventually he does, and then he realizes all of the power that he could have had with Dragoon if he had just done this in the first place. You know, kind of like he did when he was facing off against Enrique, if people remember that part.
Mm-hmm.
Where he legitimately cared about Dragoon, but he also cared about Enrique's Bit Beast. So, Tyson's able to hit this new threshold of power. No one else really gets a lesson in this regard, and they ultimately decide, okay, time to go to the finals.
Oh, that's just funny.
So, what did a lesson for Tyson do right, Andrea? Well, it did a lot of things right for Tyson, just not really anybody else.
Well, it was nice that...
Also, I find it funny that Max was very broken up in the previous episode about Dracil, and this one, he's just mildly depressed. Apparently, he got a Prozac at some point, and he's fine now. I don't know.
Well, and it was funny that, and it was nice that Max is like, well, I get what Robert's trying to do and tries to educate Tyson on
Well, they all do. They all try to get him to see it, but they can't get through to him because he's so angry.
True.
But I think ultimately it took... I think it was Kai that eventually got through to Tyson. And
no,
so
it was...
Was it Max?
It was Max.
It was Max? Okay, yeah. That makes more sense. So yeah, what did this do right? So the training for Tyson was great, but no training for anybody else. That was kind of sad. Just saying. What did this episode do wrong?
It's just funny. Like you said, it's just funny that everything, it's just Tyson getting involved and everyone else is like on the sidelines. Okay.
I have to fix everything because I'm the shonen protagonist. Yeah, this is why this isn't a negative for me, because I'm used to this by now. I've seen Goku, Naruto, Ichigo, all of them do it. Kenshin did it. They all did it. So, like, for you it's upsetting. For me, it's just like, oh, that's par for the course. So, yeah, to me, a negative is the fact that Max, Ray, and Kai didn't really get much training out of it. They didn't get to learn any lessons about themselves out of that, because that would have been cool. I get it, 30-minute episode, but it would have been cool if, like, not just if Tyson was going up against Robert, but then just for the heck of it, you know, like, we have a rematch of the Majestics, where, except in this case, Ray goes up against Eunicolian again. Max, because technically his Beyblade wasn't wrecked. Max goes up against, what was it called? The twin-headed dragon. Enrique's one.
Mm-hmm.
and then Kai has a rematch with Johnny and Salamulian. That would have been cool. And they all could have eventually learned something and maybe come together as the Bladebreakers, which we kind of got teased in episode 45 when they're like, well, we're the Bladebreakers and we're forever gonna win. And ultimately, and I actually forgot this part about Black Dranzer, all 4 Bit Beasts basically attack it. Wouldn't it have been cool if they had that 4 moment in this training and all were stronger because of it? Nope, didn't happen. Out of 5, what would we give a lesson for Tyson? 3.
3.
It's run of the mill. It's pretty much what I would expect for them doing. And then we get into the final episode 48, Victory in Defeat. You heard me. Victory is in dem feet. Sorry, dad joke, had to make it. The World Championships are underway. Everybody is there, and the first match is going to be Kai taking on Spencer. I was about to say Sergey. No, it's Spencer. So we have Dranzer going up against Seaborg, and the arena that they have put them in is, what did they call it? I think it was like the Black Sea Bowl is what they called it.
Something like that.
Yeah, and so it's basically supposed to be like a street corner in a Russian city where they have a river going through it, and this is supposed to be more towards Spencer's advantage because if Kai ends up in the water, Seaborg will destroy Dranzer. Because apparently, as we learn in this episode, Seaborg is 10 times older than any other Bit Beast, which apparently age equates into strength. First time we'll hear of it. Probably ever. And so the first round with Dranzer, or actually, before the fight even happens... No, never mind. The first round does happen before that happens. So... first round, Dranzer versus Seaborg. And apparently we're not doing an elimination, by the way. It's going to be best 2 out of 3 with each match. So the first match between Spencer and Kai does not go in Kai's favor. He is able to keep Seaborg on land for quite a bit, but ultimately the strength of Seaborg wins out. He is able to get Dranzer on a boat, to which Dranzer thinks he has an opening, and doesn't, because he gets ready to do his flaming arrow on Seaborg, but it turns out that he was aimed right at Seaborg's blowhole, and so gets sprayed with a bunch of water, thus dousing out the flame arrow and giving Seaborg the win. Kai is not happy about this. In fact, he goes off to go punch walls. When he does this, he is met by Voltaire. Kai's grandpa is ultimately not happy that Kai betrayed the Demolition Boys and the Viavolt Corporation, but he is willing to forgive that. So much so that he is willing to give the Black Dranzer bit, not the top is destroyed, the Black Dranzer bit to Kai if he swears loyalty to Voltaire, he makes it so that the Bladebreakers lose the finals, and he takes the Bladebreakers Bit Beasts. And I think also the Demolition Boys Bit Beasts. I think that was the premise. He wanted all of them.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted him to take all of them. If he does this, he may have Black Dranzer back. And Kai is very tempted by this. So much so that we actually see Kai accept the bit. And that's when Max and Tyson find them talking and Kai walks off. So immediately the worries are Kai's betrayed us again for power. And even like the way that it even goes is like we as the viewers are like, yeah, he's going to betray him again. And this is going to be bad. And round 2 begins, and it basically repeats round 1, where Dranzer tries to keep, or we don't know what it is, but Kai tries to keep Seaborg on land, can't do it, and then Kai ends up on a boat again, getting ready to get destroyed by Seaborg. To which, at that point, when Seaborg launches its attack, we find out that Kai didn't accept Black Dranzer. He then calls out Dranzer, and now that he's learned from the attack previously from Seaborg, he thinks he's got the upper hand, he's going to win. And he does get a really good strike off on Seaborg, but it isn't enough. And Seaborg destroys Kai and Dranzer. And that is the first win in the books for the Demolition Boys. So the Golden Boy that was pretty much the sure win for this loses. But there's a silver lining. Voltaire is pissed at this entire thing unfolding, whereas Kai kind of realizes this doesn't hurt as much as I thought it would. I'm okay with losing at this point, which is actually a big character development thing for Kai, because Kai has wanted to win. Nothing but win. That's why he took Black Dranzer in the first place, is that wins were going to be guaranteed. And so in this case, it is a victory for Kai, even in defeat. See, the title was literal in that sense. What did this episode do right, Andrea?
Didn't he take Black Dranzer? But
he took the bit.
But he
didn't use it.
But he said, well, I don't have to use it. That's the thing. So
that's ultimately what he did. But the way that it was done, that it was shown, is that it looked like he was going to betray them again. Mm-hmm. It's the reveal where he says, "Go, Dranzer!" that we then realize, oh, he didn't do it. I mean, he ultimately lost in the end, but he didn't do it. So that to you, that's a positive.
Oh yeah,
is the fact that Kai learned a lesson, is that you don't have to win all the time.
Yep.
Here's the thing. I do still think he thought he was going to win. He thought he'd learned enough, but I do like that it ended up not being a win for him, if that makes sense. Because then at that point, there was more for Kai to learn in a loss than there was in him winning.
Well, I just liked it that he's like chooses to accept his friends more than power.
Yeah, that's pretty much the choice that he made at this point. He chose the Bladebreakers over power. And so that's supposed to be like the moral of the story of the episode. And it does work, because if you're going to do a moral like that, Kai's the one to do it with. So I tend to agree with you. I think that's a great positive in it. Any negatives that we have for this? I honestly think Seaborg was a little overhyped in the episode, but that's really kind of my thing. Because they literally go, oh, it's so much older, and apparently age equates into strength. And I just don't know if I buy that.
But now it just seems weird, like, now they can absorb bit beasts too.
Mm-hmm. Did he absorb Dranzer?
Yeah, he took...
Yeah, that's right. Spencer did take Dranzer. So already we have 2 Bladebreakers down that don't have bit beasts anymore.
So it's like, oh man, that's only it was nice about Black Dranzer, because it would have been a unique thing, but now they can. Well, that's kind of dumb.
Well, remember when they broke Black Dranzer, they took the bit beasts from it. So
well, that's true.
The guess that we have is that their Beyblades are also able to do that.
I know, but now that just seems like.
Yeah, I don't really have negatives aside from what I said. Like, I think Seaborg was overhyped a little bit, but out of 5, what would we give victory and defeat?
I would give it a 4.
This is a 4.5 as far as I'm concerned, because
4.5 really.
Yes, like we forget that, the premise of this is like they have to win, because then at that point the BBA wins. But in the case of, like you just earlier pointed it out, it needs to be out of 3, right? So there has to be a loss in there somewhere. And I think they picked the right person to lose, because who is going to learn from that more than Kai? Ray, Max, and Tyson have all lost.
Yeah, and it'd be nice for a change, like if Ray would have to win, and Tyson would have
It puts more pressure on them, yeah.
And Ray has had his fair share of losing during a competition. So it's
But given Kai's arc, he needs to learn to lose. So it really worked out. So that's why I'm saying like 4.5, considering the way that they built things and kind of the delayed timing, I was legitimately thinking, yeah, he betrayed them again. The Sith Lord is always tempted by power, but no, I was actually pleasantly surprised. So 4.5. And that does it for this episode. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this journey. But unfortunately, next time it ends, because we will be doing the final 3 episodes of Beyblade Season 1, or original Beyblade, because now people are pointing out to me all the time that I guess every season has a subtitle. So at that point, this is just straight up Beyblade. So this will be the end of Beyblade. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on this podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. It definitely helps us out with the algorithms and whatnot. And you can check out all the other stuff that we're doing, like, say, the previous podcast where we reviewed Shield Hero, or Fruits Basket, or Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, or G Gundam, for crying out loud. You can check out all that stuff. I referenced G Gundam earlier this podcast. Go listen to that, because that was Andrea's first time. So go enjoy that. And if you're listening on podcast platforms, we are available on Amazon Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Player.fm, and Spotify. You can listen to us there. Leave us a review, leave us a nice comment, leave us a like, do all of those nice things. It really does help out. And we will see you guys next time. So until then, until we gather once again for the finals to see if the Bladebreakers can do it, it's time to let it rip! You're welcome!